Hi Sapphires! I hope you've had a fantastic week this week and I hope you've really enjoyed our theme of loving nature, getting outdoors and having adventures. I've been getting outdoors every day this week and I've decided to have a bit of a comfy cozy day today. So I've got my big fluffy jumper on, I've got a nice cozy blanket. I suggest you do the same while we read about someone else's adventures in chapter 4 of our book. Okay. I was a very different boy when I left Washington, D.C. from when I first arrived there. I was taller and I had money in my pocket. It was summer, but there was some rain, and by the time I reached the port of Baltimore, after a day and a half of walking, my suit was dirty and the brass toe caps of my boots were muddy and dull. I could smell the sea before I saw it. I could smell the smoke and the dirt of the city of Baltimore too, but underneath that there was something else, an odd saltiness I could almost taste. It was the sea, bigger and wider than any land, and back then I began to feel as if the whole world was opening right in front of me. I had the address that Baltimore Jack had given me. It was a boatyard, owned by coloured folk who might give me work. I couldn't read the paper Jack had written on, but I showed it to a kind-looking shopkeeper, who showed me where the Canard Wharf Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company was. I walked down to the shore. I could hardly believe what I saw. There were so many boats. It looked as if there was another city right over the sea. The mass of those massive ships and sailing boats stuck up like a forest of trees. I made my way down to the dockside. Everyone was busy, and there was such a crowd of people. Men talked in languages I couldn't understand. Coloured men, white men, men with long hair, and some with bright tattoos on their arms, loading and unloading bales of fluffy raw cotton and sweet-smelling tobacco. The air was full of the strong scent of sugar. There was whaling ships with harpoons on their decks, and on the dockside were crates of live animals, pigs and sheep and cows. I could have stood there all day and all night just watching. And, like I said, there were so many boats. Surely I'd find one who'd give me a job. It was late in the evening when I found Canard Wharf. When I saw it, I felt as if my heart had sunk into my boots. The company Jack had told me about built some fixed boats in their yard, and their yard was filled with ships that were being repaired. I didn't want to spend my life being a carpenter. I wanted to see the world. I snuck back to the docks and in through the gates. It was dark now. How I longed to run up onto one of those ships and hide there. Stow away. That's what Jack called it. How wonderful to fall asleep in one part of the world and then wake up somewhere else. I watched and waited, but some policemen yelled at me to go home, so I ran off. Where could I go? I didn't have a home. As it got dark and the dockside became quiet, I stopped by the biggest ship I could find. Its dark wooden walls rose up high above me, higher than any house, and I reckoned it would be easy to hide on a boat like that. I checked that no one was looking, and I began to climb up one of the ropes that had tied it to the shore. It was harder than I thought, and as I shinned up towards the boat I made the mistake of looking down. I was over the water. It was dark and deep. I could see a fat dead rat bobbing about. What if there were monsters down there too, just like the ones that Eliza had told me about? Would they jump up and swallow me? I was up against the ship when I felt a stone hit me right in the back of the neck. Then I heard a shout. "Boy, get down here, boy!" A policeman. I heard the hard, sharp sound of his whistle. I scrambled up the boat, and for a few minutes I was aboard that wooden world. I felt the deck under my feet, and I looked up into the mass and saw the new moon shining like a cut fingernail. Then two sailors, smelling of rum and beer and dirt, closed in on me. They were so tall, and they blocked out the sky. They grabbed me and called me all the worst names. They said they'd throw me overboard with the rats and the rubbish. I thought that was the end of me. I was so frightened I wet myself. One of them picked me up by my jacket. It tore as he carried me and half dragged me off the ship by the scruff of my neck, with my legs kicking out under me. He threw me off the ship and I landed in a heap close to where the policeman was waiting. The policeman clouted me hard, and I ran away as fast as I could. It was dark and the policeman was fatter than a Christmas hog, So I got away and hid in a pile of ropes by the warehouse. What could I do now? Would I have to go back to Washington? What would I say to Janey? It took a long time to sleep with all those questions running around in my head. When I opened my eyes, it was still dark. Every bone in my body hurt. My good jacket was torn up, my shoes were scuffed and muddy. I did not look like a boy that you'd want to give a job to on any kind of ship. But I wasn't going to give up. I was going to get work on a ship no matter what. I looked round carefully to check for policemen, but the dockside was quiet. Even in the early morning, the sight of all those ships took my breath away, and I did not want to leave. I told myself if I kept out of the way and stuck to the shadows, maybe I'd have better luck this time. Sounds like he's got a plan. So this week, I'd like you to maybe spend a little bit of time making a spider diagram and maybe listen for the emotions and the thoughts and feelings that our main character is having when he sees those ships for the first time. Imagine something that you maybe saw for the first time or something that took your breath away that really impressed you. It could be anything. I hope you enjoyed the chapter and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Speak to you soon. Bye.